Hey guys, welcome to the Strong Life Podcast. And I am going to be banging out a lot of these solo Strong Life podcasts because if you've listened to me before, I always talk about productivity and really leveraging your time. So when I drive, I'm going to start doing these not too often, but enough where I can start getting you guys some powerful information and things that kind of resonate with me that I feel like I really want to share a life lesson or a story with you guys. Those are the solo podcasts that I'm going to do. And this is when you hear these lessons, I don't want you to get caught up or shut it down and say, you know what? He's talking about being a strength coach. He's talking about business. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't need to listen to that stuff. But what I'm going to talk to you about are some lessons I learned in managing money and things that I've seen, mistakes that I've seen in people throughout, especially since I've owned the Underground Strength Gym. And 7 years ago, at the time of this recording, is when I opened the warehouse location of the Underground Strength Gym. And then the 4 years prior to that, I was running the business from my parents' house as well as the first house that my wife and I bought. So I remember when I first opened the Underground, I was training a guy who was always very, well put together. He was always dressed nice. He had a nice car. It was a Lexus. It was all tricked out, tinted out, had the fancy wheels on it. And not long after he started training with me, things went south for him on a business partnership that he was involved with. He really couldn't afford the training anymore, so he stopped training and just trained on his own. And, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And then I ran into him a while later. I don't recall exactly how much longer it was. I feel like it was probably a year later. And he was big time depressed. He was stressed out. And I mean, literally, he told me he was ready to jump off of a building. He had no money. He was living he had to move back and live with a family member, his aunt or something like that. And, but what was he still driving? He still had that fucking fancy tricked out car that was easily something probably like a $45,000, $50,000 car. The guy was driving a nice set of wheels, but it was the same guy that couldn't afford to rent an apartment and was so depressed that he was ready to jump off of a building. And throughout the times of me owning a gym, there have been plenty of times where I noticed somebody with a very fancy car tends to be that same person that is complaining about the investment of the membership of the gym, or they're training with us for some time, and then they say, we've run into some tough times, somebody lost this job, my insurance this, my own business changed like that. It's, one of those this or that excuses, yet it's still the same person driving a fancy car, a Lexus, a Beamer, a Mercedes. And I'm not saying this has happened a few times. This has happened many times. The same person whose debit card is always getting declined, the same person who can't afford $195 a month, $245 a month, is honestly not a lot of money. And if you can't afford to do the thing that takes care of your health, the most important thing in your life is your health. Without your health, you've got nothing, literally. But it's those same people that still drive the Lexus, the Beamer, the tricked out SUV, the tricked out car. They don't understand how to manage money or how to manage life. And one of the biggest wake-up calls I had, I'm going to share with you two stories, and then that's going to be the end of this Strong Life podcast. One of the biggest wake-up calls I had, biggest lesson to be learned, was when my wife and I got married, we went on a honeymoon, and we went to Aruba. And every morning I would wake up early to go and rent those big tents so you could get shade. And every morning I would always stand next to this same guy, and I saw the guy there. He was older. He was in his 50s, mid to late 50s, and he was there with his daughters. His daughters were there with their husbands. I think it was 3 of his daughters. They were all married, and 2 out of the 3 had kids. So it was the guy, his wife, his 3 daughters, that's 5 people. The 3 husbands, that's 8 people. and a few babies. So we're looking at like 10 to 12 people. And while we got talking, he was talking, I don't even remember how it started, got married 10 years ago, but he was talking about how he had just returned from a hunting trip in Africa. And while he was in Africa, he had to hire a bodyguard to protect the game that he hunted, because while he slept, he didn't want to be attacked by lions and tigers. True story. So he had to hire a bodyguard to guard the game that he hunted. And that got me like, holy crap. I'm like, what the hell does this guy do that he's able to go to Africa and hunt whatever he's hunting, hiring a bodyguard to protect the animals that he hunted? And then not long after, here he is in Aruba, and we start talking about like what we do, and or he asked me what I do, and I told him, well, I'm a teacher and I'm starting to get into business for myself. I'm training athletes, and he said, he goes, I've been running my own business for a long time, and I'm going to tell you one thing. He said, or he told me, I'm going to tell you these two things. He said, learn to live below your means. He said, I still drive around, and I got married in November of 04. And he goes, I still drive around in some sort of like 1990-something pickup truck. It's a stick shift with roll-down windows. He goes, but I own my house. And he lived in a very, very rich area of North Jersey. He said, I own my own house. I own all the furniture in there. Because if I wanted to sell it right now, I could make away with like 1.2 million. He goes, my kids wanted to come here. Their husbands wanted to pay. I'm taking care of everybody. And he goes, the reason why I'm able to own my house and pay for things with cash and live on my own terms is because I live below my means. I don't waste my money on the fancy cars. I don't spend excessively on things that I don't need. Just because I want it doesn't mean I have to have it, he said. He said, so while we're here, last night we go out to dinner, all 12 of us or however many it was. He goes, the husbands wanted to pay and I took care of dinner. He goes, it was over $1,000 and I could take care of it no problem. And he goes, when I started running my business, he goes, people told me to create the system, but don't worry about being there. He's like, just create a system. He goes, I'm going to tell you what, I was always at my business. And he goes, that's why now I'm living the life I want on my own terms. And he said, don't get me wrong, I took my vacations and I took my time away. He's like, but I was always on the job. I always made sure that the guys were doing the right stuff, that the best. And for what he did, he was a contractor. So he would, build houses and make additions on buildings and things of that nature. And he said, I was always making sure that we bought the best stuff, that we didn't skip out and buy cheap supplies. And he told me that somebody wanted him to work on their house down in Florida, a friend of the family. They had a vacation home. He said, I'll only go down there in the winter when it's cold up here in New Jersey, and if you let me work on my own schedule. He goes, I'm going to work for about 4 hours, and then I'm going to play golf the rest of the day. And so what did he do is he stayed down in Florida for close to like 2 months working with his guys on this house. And then from there, he went and played golf. And it was interesting to hear how basically he did the hustle. He put in the sweat equity to live the lifestyle he wanted. Now, I know we hear with all the internet and the interwebs, all these people that are building systems and they're not at their business, and there's certainly an upside to that. But what I want the takeaway of this message to be is, be the guy that works hard, that pursues excellence, that if you run a business, you're really pushing for that business to be awesome. Your face is there. You're checking up on people. And don't be afraid to have a high standard. A lot of coaches I speak with, they're so afraid to push the coaches that work for them. They're so afraid to push them and to tell them that things need to be done better, that they need to work harder. And I said, there's nothing wrong with raising the bar and having high standards. And that guy really taught me that that is totally okay. Here he is showing up on the jobs, making sure that his guys are working hard, doing the right thing, not screwing around. And because he did that, he wasn't the guy that drove around in a fancy car, but I guarantee you his wife had a nice car. And like I'm saying, the same people that fucking always complain about something being too expensive have the flashiest watches. They have the nice car. Not all. There's certainly plenty of people that pay for shit with cash. They're smart. But there's a lot of people living way above their means versus living up to their means. Meaning we are all capable of creating a great business, whatever it is that you want to do. A restaurant, a gym business, an online business of any sort. Anybody could do it. It's who cares enough to want to do it. And people have to really understand that if you want what is important, if you want to live a good life, then don't waste your money blowing it on things that you truly can't pay in cash and that you could own. And that's very common advice that you hear all the time, but I don't know why not enough people do it. And I'm telling you that I've heard it many times, but I don't see it enough. And that guy who taught that lesson to me out when I was we were on our honeymoon, and I was talking to him in the mornings, and then also a great book recommendation. I actually didn't buy the book. I got it years ago on audio, and it's Gene Simmons' book called Sex, Money, Kiss. And it's all about how he lived below his means, how he hustled, how he worked harder than everybody, how his bandmates would go out and drink and do drugs, and he would not waste his money on alcohol and drugs. How he, instead of renting the fanciest penthouse apartment and marble flooring everything, when it's an apartment, he's never going to own it. He went to the cheapest part of Manhattan and rented a studio apartment. Why? Because he was never there. He didn't want to waste his money. He was living below his means. So he bought everything with cash. He also leveraged many, many different things inside of his business. So when he found out that people were violating the trademarks of Kiss, he put on a high-end Kiss convention, and he sent out legal notices, or the lawyers did, saying that you have to pay these licensing fees or you're going to be sued, or you guys could show up to the convention and perform, but the catch is that you guys need to perform for free in exchange for using their music and creating cover bands and selling merchandise. He leveraged everything. He didn't just be a musician. He became an overall entrepreneur who leverages things. And he too lived below his means. He didn't drive around in a fancy car until he could buy it with cash, and when he had plenty of cash. And like I said, I'm going back to the same people that complain. The same dude that can't afford not even $195 a month. There's people that at the new gym, we've had guys that from what I understand are making several $100,000 a year, that spend over $100 several times a week going out to eat, are the same people that use this quote. I don't think I have the time. I'm going to see if I could fit it into my budget. Here's the bottom line. If it is important, you will find the time and you will find a way. And you will have the money. If it's not important, you will find an excuse. So this is again why I don't like having cheap memberships. Because you attract more of the excuse makers, and they will make excuses for their life as to why they're not making the money. There are so many ways for people to create side businesses to make money today. It's not even funny. You could do it with a private Facebook group, and private YouTube videos. There's so many ways to do it, but the bottom line is people don't want to do it. Instead, they want to make excuses. Don't be that guy. Don't be that person that's fucking making excuses and always complaining about life, always complaining about money. I'm going to jump off the top of this building. Well, you want to know what? Accountability and responsibility. Don't buy the shit that you don't need. When I bought the car that I'm driving in, I've got a Toyota 4Runner. I bought their base model and I bought their previous year model. So I think I'm driving in a 2011 and I bought it in 2012. And this thing is just very simple. It's got, power windows and leather seats, but it doesn't have all this crazy radio and all this crazy stuff. I bought their base model. I think the only thing cheaper than this would have been the cloth seats. But if anybody has kids, you know that you shouldn't do that shit. So, let's close this one out. The Strong Life Podcast. Again, Strong Life Podcast about building that strong mind, strong body, strong life, and your finances are part of this. So don't waste your money on the shit that you don't need just because you want it. That's called self-discipline and fucking being tough, being smart. I think people nowadays are just fucking spoiled. That's the bottom line. If you're driving around in a car that's over $40,000 and you can't afford something that improves your health or your child's health that costs $200 a month, then you are full of shit. Then unfortunately your child isn't important, but the fancy car is. If you are not making the money you want to make, then climb the ladder of success inside your company. So if you're a teacher, then become a department chair, become an administrator, become the principal of the schools. If you're a coach and you're great at coaching football or soccer, then why don't you create a private Facebook group with YouTube videos teaching other coaches how to do, or other parents, okay? The population of parents with kids who play soccer, or the population of parents of kids in sports, is much bigger than the population of coaches. So add value to the world, and then you will earn a greater income. There's no mistake when people are earning money. Certainly there's some people earning money unethically. You can't worry about that shit. You need to do stuff the ethical way. So, lessons in life: if you're driving that fancy car, you better have paid for it in cash. If you've got fancy anything, you're maybe impressing some people, but at the end of the day, it's not about how cool your Facebook status is. I know lots of people that are claiming to be just crushing it with this or with that, but they're actually not that successful, or they live a very strange life that's kind of, it sounds cool on Facebook, but in the real world, it's kind of full of shit. So, be the truth, live below your means, and most importantly, learn this one. Ultimate Warrior said this, and I really loved it. Live up to your means. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm going to also make this a video. If you want to catch the video, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And that's the username is Z Evanesh. And basically, you could go to YouTube and just type in Underground Strength Coach. You'll find my stuff. And, of course, my website is zachevanesh.com. Or, if first time here and you don't know how to spell my name, go to undergroundstrength.tv. You'll be able to see all the articles, videos, training, success, mindset, kicking ass, taking names in life and lifting. And please take a moment to share this with a friend. I don't make any money from the podcast, so it would mean a lot to me if you take this video or you take the link on the iTunes and share it on your Facebook or Twitter page and share with people the stuff that I'm doing to inspire and help other people. I really appreciate it. Much love, and thanks to all of you who have already given me a 5-star rating on iTunes. Talk to you guys soon. Once again, Zach Evanesh here, signing off from undergroundstrength.tv. Peace out, guys.